Welcome to another episode of Denise Cooks for Diabetics. Today I'm going to make a chicken meatloaf. If you prefer turkey, that would work just as well. I have 1 pound of ground chicken. So it's going to be kind of a small meatloaf. It's probably nice for about 2 people. So to begin our recipe, I've already cracked 1 egg. Give it a little bit of a scramble. Now, if you prefer only to have the white, that would work fine too. I would use 2 egg whites in that case because you want to have enough that it's going to bind the meatloaf together. So you could always add 2 egg whites if you prefer that. Okay, so we're going to give that a little bit of a mix. Then what I have here, my next ingredient, I have a little squirt of ketchup and a squirt of mustard. I like the spicy brown mustard. This is the delicatessen style mustard. So whatever you choose. I also have some Indian spice mustard, which is also really good. So if you have a favorite mustard, put that in there. Okay, so we're going to add that. Now, of course, we're watching our carbs because we're diabetics, or maybe we're not, but we like to cook healthy and low carb. So for me, I'm using some whole grain bread. I prefer this to store-bought breadcrumbs because then I can add the flavors that I want once again, if it's seasoned. And I like the fresh bread. Okay. So I toast the bread first, let it get, cool it off a little bit, and then I just crumble it. You could put it in the food processor if you want, but it's really not necessary. This is just one less thing I have to clean then. Okay? So dump that in. I have the half a piece left, but I don't think I'm going to need it. Okay, so I'm going to mix that together. Now you want the bread to get a little bit soft and soggy and kind of squishy. And that's how you would also make a meatball recipe as well. My grandmother would break up the bread and then she would soak it in some water. But I don't need the water because we've got the liquid from the ketchup and the mustard. Okay, so I'm going to add a little salt to this. Now I don't usually use a teaspoon or a measuring spoon because I kind of eyeball it. So this is a 1/4 teaspoon. So what I like to do, now actually I think I want to use a half a teaspoon. What I like to do is, I like to just use the cap, but I want to show you how much I usually use. So this is a half teaspoon of salt. I'm going to pour it in the cap so you can kind of see, because this is an easier way for me. I just pour it in, I'm like, okay, that looks good. Half a teaspoon, okay? Then once again, my favorite spice company, Dan Gold. Lemon pepper. This is my favorite that I've been using a lot lately. It's a nice peppery taste. It also has, it does have some salt, so watch the salt. It has black pepper, of course, red bell pepper, garlic, a little sugar, onion, turmeric, lemon peel, carrot, parsley. It's all you could see it. I wonder if you could get a really close look at this. I'm going to pour some in the cap. I'm going to use a capful, and then we're going to really zoom into that. And you can see like the little bits of carrots in there, the black pepper, of course, the onion, the salt. It's really yummy. Of course, if you don't like pepper, you're not going to use this spice, of course. Okay. So I think it's getting a little soft, the bread. So I'm going to preheat my oven now, 350. And it's going to cook about 1 hour. I have my nice little loaf pan. I'm going to cook it in. Okay. So I'm going to cut my meat container. Whoa, that made a splash. pop it right in here. There we go. Ground chicken is so soft and tender and easy to manipulate. I'm going to get my hand right in there. Your best tool is your hand. Give it a good squish and really incorporate those ingredients nicely. It smells really good. You know, if you want to make it more fancy, you can chop up an onion, you can chop up pepper. I've done that as well. But I wanted to show you the basic on how you would make this. Cooking is not necessarily a science. Like I think baking is more of a science, that it's a balance of certain ingredients that you're adding. Your baking soda, the chocolate, you're adding coffee, baking soda versus baking powder. But when you're cooking something like this, the basic thing is you want to add little breadcrumbs, an egg, and of course your meat. After that, it's open to your imagination. Whatever you feel like, whatever you happen to have in your refrigerator, you add it. Whatever your taste is. And that's why I like chicken, and of course turkey as well, because you're really going to taste whatever flavor. So I get it in my hand. This is not really going to fill up this loaf pan because it's just a pound of meat, but I'm going to form it kind of give it a nice pat. There we go. I'm going to kind of form it, the little loaf in my pan. You can use any kind of dish, really. I just like this loaf pan because it's non-stick. Okay? Okay, we're all set. I made my little loaf. I'm going to pop it in the oven, 350, for 1 hour. Put my timer on. Some microwaves are very hard to push. Have you noticed? Okay. I want to tell you a little story about my salt shaker. I really love this little salt shaker. And it actually was lavender salt. My husband and I went on a really lovely trip a couple of years ago, and we went to a lavender farm. The smell was so awesome. So anyway, I bought this, and when I was done with it, with the lavender salt, I loved it so much and I didn't want to throw the jar away or recycle it, so now I use it as my regular salt container. Okay, so I will see you in an hour, and we'll taste our delicious meatloaf. Okay, our chicken meatloaf is done. It smells delicious. I can smell the pepper, the sweetness of the ketchup, and the tanginess of the mustard. So I'm going to take it out. It's been cooling a little bit so I can handle it. Non-stick. I'm going to use my hands. Yep. Perfect. It's very cute, as you can see. Okay. Remember, this is with a pound of chicken, so you could double this or triple it or whatever, depending on how many people you're feeding. Cut a slice into it so you can see it. Very nicely done. Okay. Now today I'm going to pair it with some roasted peppers that I made yesterday. And I will be showing you how to roast these peppers in a future video. We have the tricolor here. It's delicious. So I'm going to take a little piece of my pepper, my roasted pepper, a little piece of my chicken meatloaf. Delicious. Okay, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on another episode of Denise Cooks for Diabetics.